All right, I think I should make a start. There may be others who will join us afterwards, but for those of you that have already logged on, I think we'll make a start on the presentation. Um, as you well already know, you've joined us to see a presentation for Ford common faults and top tips. A bit about myself. My name is Arber Disha. Otherwise, some of you may know me as Abs. I've been doing Ford for nearly 2 years now, where I previously have done all the other brands, starting with Mercedes and covering the rest of the brands that Autologic Opus covers. If you've got any questions about the presentation, you may save them for the end. When the presentation is concluded, we have a short video for you guys to watch in regards to the RAP team, remote access programming, where the Drive Pro users have the ability for our team to log on to and run dealer systems in the background, where they can carry out programming and service functions for various models. Yes, unfortunately, that is the look I have. It's nothing to do with the lockdown, so that's the image that I have to live with. Okay, so we'll make a start. The webinar today will cover as follows. Typically, we've got known issues with Ford regarding the DPF systems. If you've ever worked on Fords, chances are you've come across various DPF faults. In regards to the 1-liter EcoBoost engines, we've got some dynamic data and screenshots that we can present you with, and we can even provide them to you. Some of you may already know that the parameters or information that you need for comparison purposes, Ford is not very forthcoming with such information, so we have to rely on ourselves finding this information and providing them to you where we read them off vehicles. Another EcoBoost engine fault that we've come across on the 1 liters is the CAT system efficiency below threshold. We'll be talking a little bit about that. The 2.2 TDCI engines, typically between 2011 and 2015 models, where they have an air mass too high fault code. And ultimately, last but not least, obviously, Mark 1 Ford Kugas, 2008 model years onwards, typically diesel engines, where you've got various symptoms such as non-star, non-crank, restricted performance, battery light on, or all the above at once. Okay, so for diesel engines, 1.6, 2 liters and 2.2 diesel engines with DPF issues. Issues such as blocked or failing regen, engine light on, restricted performance. Two of the fault codes that are rather common is exhaust temperature too low during regeneration, or exhaust after treatment glow plug circuit open. Typical cause is vaporizer physically blocked or a blown fuse due to a vaporizer component internal short circuit caused by vaporizer glow plug overheating or pump failure. Action, well, gain access to the vaporizer, connect the vacuum pump Mitivac tool and see if the vaporizer holds vacuum. If so, then the vaporizer is blocked and will need replacing. If the fuse for the vaporizer glow plug or pump has blown, then test the glow plug circuit resistance. Typically you will see about 1 to 1.1 ohms. If it is less than 0.8 ohms or greater than 1.3 ohms, then the vaporizer glow plug is faulty and will need to be replaced. If the value is within spec, then disconnect the fuel line from the pump and place the end of the fuel line in a clean container and run the bleed prime routine. If the pump is noisy or does not run, then check the wiring to the pump and check the fuel lines are not blocked. Replace pump if necessary. By the way, all this information is available to you through us. You can give us a call or email us and we'd be happy to provide this information at your request. When the DPF fault codes are presented relating to soot accumulation, it is advisable that the DPF pressure sensor readings be checked via dynamic data and confirm the values. Below you'll see some of the values that we've written down. Those are uh, values that you should see on a known good vehicle, and the second set of values are the values that we've taken off known good vehicles ourselves. So as you can see on idle speed, you've got voltages or kPa, and in some cases millibar, and you've got a 4000 RPM, uh, again voltages, kPa and millibar. These will help you identify if the pressure readings from the pressure sensor are within spec or not. And if they are outside the tolerances, then the next stage you would do is confirm the parameters are read correctly by the DPF pressure sensor, or if the DPF in itself really is blocked. If the values are within spec, then the DPF should be able to regen on its own, or should be able to force a regen. If the pressures are above the maximum tolerance, the DPF will not regen on its own, and most likely not force a regen either. At this point, you will need to confirm the DPF pressure readings, as I mentioned previously, by manually applying your own pressure to the DPF pressure sensor with the pressure gauge, and monitor this value via dynamics using the diagnostic tool to confirm the sensor readings and see if they are the same as the pressure that it's being read by the sensor. This way, if the DPF pressure sensor is reading correctly or not, you'll be able to tell whether you need to change the sensor or whether you need to have the DPF removed. If the sensor is correct, then DPF is recommended to be removed and sent away for cleaning. If the sensor is reading wrong, then the sensor is recommended to be swapped with a known good genuine sensor for test purposes, and see if the values change and if the DPF regen is then allowed to go through and complete. Right, onto the 2.2 diesel engine, the 2011 onwards to 2015, typically seen on transit custom vans. If a fault code is presented with muscle volume airflow, circuit range performance airflow too high, Papa 00 Bravo Delta -00, or Papa 00 Bravo Charlie -00 with air mass too low, then the following actions should be taken. Check the dynamic data for the air intake, particularly the information relating to the air intake temp sensor 1 and air intake temp sensor 2, otherwise known as charge air temp sensor. On an engine that is running at normal operating temperatures, the air intake temp sensor 2 should normally read just slightly higher than the intake air temp sensor 1. If the intake air temp sensor 2 reads too high, such as 60, 70 or 80 degrees Celsius, and it can read even higher, then this is the reason why the engine ECU thinks the air mass is too high. The same goes for the second fault code that reads air mass too low. The intake air temp sensor 2 could read lower than the intake air temp sensor 1 when engine at normal operating temperatures, and this could cause the low air mass fault code. This temperature reading from intake air temp sensor 2 is taken on the intercooler. The intake air temp sensor 2 on Transit Custom is located on the intercooler outlet towards the intake manifold. On other vehicles, is located on the pipe by the throttle valve or as part of the map sensor. This can be confirmed if the map sensor has 4 wires instead of 3 wires. The most common fault on the intake air temp sensor 2 is that it reads too high and causes the fault code air mass flow too high. Reason why for that is that because the temperature increases with higher boost, so the more the air is compressed in the pipes, the hotter the temperature gets, and the hotter the temperature gets, it means you've got more air in the pipes, and that's why the ECU works out a calculation based on the temperature that it picks up, and as a result it thinks that the air mass is too high when the temperature is too high. Right, EcoBoost engines. One of the common faults that I've seen on EcoBoost engines, the 1 litre EcoBoost engine, is the catalyst system efficiency below threshold, Papa 0420-09. Mostly just engine light on, and in some cases performance issues were reported. and typically the cause is either the O2 sensor of the cat or the cat in itself. Basically, just carry out an emissions test on and confirm if the cat has really failed by analyzing the emission values. If the emissions are out of spec, then the cat will need to be investigated. If the emissions are correct, then the downstream O2 sensor will need investigating. Essentially, the ECU can only know what the condition of a cat is based on the downstream O2 sensor. So if the O2 sensor is reading correctly and the emissions are out of spec, then you need to investigate the cat. But if the emissions are correct, then the cat must be doing its job. Therefore, you need to investigate the O2 sensor of the cat. Right, the following slides will be screenshots that we've taken of a known good vehicle in regards to 1 litre EcoBoost. This basically will help you identify if your faulty vehicle has the same parameters as the one that we've taken from known good vehicles. And I won't go through every single slide on what they contain. What I'll do is I'll just explain the content, what each slide will have. And again, this information is available to you upon request. If you need them, you can give us a call and we can provide them to you via email. This first page, as you can see, is intake air on idle. That's first page. And second page on intake air on idle. Third page is intake air at 2000 RPM. And then you've got second part of the intake air at 2000 RPM. And of course at 3000 RPM as well. You then have the O2 sensor readings on idle speed at 2000 RPM. VVT readings on idle, 2000 RPM and 3000 RPM. Okay, the following slides will be information that we've gathered from known good vehicles that we've put onto a document for you. As you can see, you've got fuel pressures for the 1 litre EcoBoost at various engine speeds, including just ignition on or just ignition off. You also have the air pressure values at various speeds as well of engine speed. We've included AC pressure values as well. Okay, lastly, but of course not least, this common faults that I've gathered for you today is the ones that I've seen quite a bit in the last few months, but by all means these are not the only ones. On a Mark 1 Ford Kuga 2008 model year onwards, we've seen that in some cases where symptoms presented such as non-start with no crank, restricted performance, battery light on, or even all of the above at the same time, and again typically on diesel engines, the above issues on this generation Kuga have been found to be caused by the engine wiring harness. One of the checks you can carry out is to check the temperature of the battery positive cable and see if it is unusually hot. This means that if the cable is hot, within this cable there is a high resistance and as such causes the above issues. If you follow this cable to its first soldered joint, you will find that the high resistance is caused there. This is due to a defect in the wiring harness manufacturing. The remedy for this issue would be a new engine wiring harness. Please note, if the cable temperature is normal and no issues found within the harness, you will need to proceed as usual in finding the cause to the above complaints. The above possible cause is one of the known issues in this model, but it does not mean that this would always be the case. So please do confirm that the above issues are caused by the engine wiring harness as mentioned above. Now, we have a short video for you in regards to the RAP programming team, and I would like you to have a look at it first before we can commence with the questioning. So I'll just start the video and we'll pick up the conversation again once the video is concluded.
Opus IVS has launched a new remote assist programming service for users of the DrivePro diagnostics device, allowing independent garages to program and code ECUs using the latest OEM data by connecting directly with remote technicians. DriveWrap brings together the advanced technologies of DrivePro and the expert knowledge of Autologic's OEM-trained master technicians through its unique remote assist program.
Remote services adds convenience. It allow independent garages access to OEM software through us for these processes without having to visit a dealer. Garage ends is actually very simple. All we would ask is that their DrivePro unit is connected to a vehicle, battery maintenance unit is connected to the vehicle, and the DrivePro connected to the internet. Once that's done, all we then need from the technician is simple ignition cycles, normally at the beginning of a process and usually at the end. This end is where the magic happens, really. It's where we carry out all of the procedures in the background of the tool.
Whether a repair requires control unit reprogramming, variant coding or a complex OEM diagnostic procedure, Opus IVS technicians can take remote control of your DrivePro and complete the reprogramming procedure for you.
As cars get more and more complex, each model that is released has got something new on it. They're becoming increasingly aware that with their sensors, parts, all kinds of parts, all need a reset or a calibration. And most of those calibrations have to be done within the dealer network. So what this offers is the ability to keep that car within your network and not have to transport it to the dealer.
Coverage currently includes Ford, Peugeot, Citroën, DS, Vauxhall, Opel and Volvo, and there's already testing underway to expand coverage even further.
One of our most popular sort of requests at the moment is for the PSA group with the alternator stops charging. And what it is it's just simply a software update to the engine ECU. But a lot of people don't have access to the PSA dealer side, or their dealerships are too far away, or they're too expensive, and so on and so forth. So a lot of them will just come in, give us a call, say that they need to do the update because it's part of a bulletin, and we'll carry that out for them.
For further information about DriveWrap, go to opusivs.com or call 01865 870 060.
Right, thank you for your attention on that video. As promised, we've concluded our presentation and we are now ready to take questions. And if you guys have any questions, please send them in and I'll be trying to answer them for you. Okay. I'm just checking some of the messages that come through. Right, Gil Scherer has asked one of the questions saying, how do you test the cat? Well, typically on that 1 litre EcoBoost engine, I would put the emissions tester on the exhaust and check the condition of the emissions and see if the cat is doing its job or not. If the emissions are within spec, Gil, then it leaves you with having the O2 sensor after cat tested. But if the emissions are out of spec, then you know the cat is not doing its job, and most likely that's the reason why the fault has come on, saying that the cat efficiency is below threshold. Hopefully that will answer your questions. Stephen has asked if we're able to rewatch the webinars. Yes, we are. I believe Nicola, our marketing team, has listed a link for you. David, David Everson has asked for, can you explain the 2 DPF loads in percentage? The percentages for the DPFs we never rely on. When it comes to DPF diagnosing, we don't use the percentages because they don't often mean what it actually is about the DPF condition. What we rely on is the DPF pressures, where they tell us what the condition of the DPF in itself is, and of course the testing of the pressure sensor to confirm that the DPF pressure really is that high, or whether the sensor is reading incorrectly. So the percentages I've never relied on, because I've seen it even on known good vehicles, because the reset hasn't actually happened on the system. It still reads in a certain percentage load that doesn't make sense for a new DPF system, for example. So I wouldn't rely on the percentages that inferred an open loop. I wouldn't use them as a means of diagnosing the DPF condition. Hopefully that will answer your question, David. John Ritchie has asked if the wrap update ECU's files to this latest. Yes, typically what the wrap team is doing is using the dealer system in the background remotely logged onto your Drive Pro. So essentially what dealers would do is what the wrap team would be doing with your vehicle. It's just that they have to remotely log onto your tool and run the dealer system. But keep in mind, this is only for FDRS vehicles, which is Euro 5, Euro 6 onwards. There is some crossovers on some service functions, but not every function, such as installing a new module or software updates. But they're slowly moving towards that for majority of the vehicles. So yeah, the ECU gets updated to its latest file if there is a file available for update. Gil has asked if the Autologic has graphing mode to be able to do any oxygen storage test on the cat. No, I don't think all of the options are there, but again, you can make it much simpler for yourself where on that particular engine, for example, on EcoBoost, you just put the emissions probe on the exhaust and check the condition of the emissions. And if they're within spec, then you have the O2 sensor after cat tested. I'm told they're rather common because dealers are keeping them in stock because they see quite a few of them. John Rich has asked if we're able to program keys on Ford. At the moment, it's a no. For FDRS team, they would require a security accreditation, but because this is a remote function, we're not comfortable in doing key codings yet because we don't really know the vehicle. We haven't got the vehicle in hand. So for safety and security purposes, the key programming or any feature that requires security accreditation is on hold. So we don't know if that's something we're going to bring up forward or look into in the future. I'm just seeing if I've missed any of the just 1 second. Any more questions from you guys? You're welcome, John, and you're welcome, David. Do we have any more questions, guys? Yes, Colin. Thank you for joining. There is an additional cost. All the information can be explained by the wrap team when you speak to them. As you can imagine, they would have to use the dealer systems where they have to pay for the programming or where they have to pay for the files and accessing them. So there would be an additional cost, but all can be explained by the wrap team if you inquire more in regards to what you want done to the vehicles. I hope that answers your questions, Colin. You're welcome, Wayne. You're welcome, Steve. And you're welcome, John. You're welcome, Beddoes. Again, guys, this information that we have just gone through the webinar, it is available to you. You can just request it, give us a call, or send us a case, and we can return the call back to you and provide this information as you request, at your request. Nice to see you online, Tina. Thank you. Okay, so if we have no more questions, guys, I'm going to conclude the presentation now. I thank you for taking part in this, and speak to you on the phone, and keep safe. Take care, guys.